Welcome to the Literary Titan podcast. In every episode, we dive into a book we've just read and share our thoughts, from best-selling authors to rising literary stars. We read it. Now let's talk about it.
Ink and Saltwater by Caden Etter is historical fiction built around a compelling idea. What might life have looked like for a transgender man in 1912? Particularly one traveling aboard the RMS Titanic. Thomas Bennett leaves Southampton for New York with a third-class ticket, a carefully chosen name, and a journal given to him by his cousin Clara. What starts as a story about leaving home gradually becomes a story about being known. Tom's journey across the Atlantic gives him something he's rarely experienced before: the chance to introduce himself without having to account for who other people once thought he was. The ship becomes a temporary world where friendships, romance, and ordinary interactions allow him to imagine a future that feels genuinely his. That's especially effective because the book treats small moments of recognition as meaningful. Being called lad, hearing someone casually use his name, sharing a room with other men, or laughing at a crowded table can carry as much emotional weight as the larger historical events surrounding him. Tom is the reason the novel works as well as it does. He's funny, observant, anxious, occasionally sarcastic, and constantly aware of how other people see him. His relationship with Clara gives the opening chapters warmth, while his friendships with Liam, Arthur, and Eric let the book explore masculinity without reducing it to a single model. Tom slowly realizes that the men around him are all completely different, which loosens his belief that there's one correct way to be a man. His developing relationship with Nora pushes that idea further. She notices the effort behind his careful behavior without treating him like a problem she needs to solve. When Tom eventually begins telling her more about what he carries physically and emotionally, her response focuses on the loneliness and exhaustion of it. The journal entries are a smart addition because they give Tom room to say what he can't always manage in conversation. They also reinforce the book's recurring interest in ink, names, stories, and the idea that writing something down can make a life harder to erase. The book reminded me of Taylor Jenkins Reid's The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, particularly in the way both stories place queer identity inside a historical setting that readers think they already know. Reid uses old Hollywood, while Etter uses the Titanic, but both are interested in the distance between the life the world sees and the life a person actually experiences. Ink and Saltwater is quieter and more intimate in its approach. A substantial amount of the novel is spent eating meals, joking with friends, walking the decks, writing in a journal, and getting to know Nora. That leisurely pace gives Tom's happiness time to feel ordinary before history intrudes. It also means the recurring thoughts about being watched, passing, breathing, hiding, and learning how to occupy space sometimes echo one another quite closely. Still, the repetition has a purpose. Tom has spent years monitoring himself, so his narration naturally circles the same fears while gradually changing what they mean. By the time the Titanic begins to sink, the passengers around him aren't simply names attached to a famous disaster. They're people the reader has watched tease each other, eat breakfast, flirt, argue, make plans, and picture lives in America. That investment makes the final stretch painful in exactly the way the novel has prepared for. The tragedy isn't powerful merely because the reader knows what happens to the Titanic. It's powerful because Tom has finally begun imagining a life beyond it. Etter ultimately turns the journal Clara gave him into one of the book's strongest symbols. Tom's body can be lost to the Atlantic, but his own account of himself survives, eventually reaching Clara through Nora. In the closing pages, Clara learns that the people who mattered aboard the ship knew him as Tom, and that Nora loved him as Tom. That gives Ink and Saltwater a bittersweet ending without reducing Tom's story to the manner of his death. The novel is really about the life he manages to claim before it, including friendship, attraction, laughter, embarrassment, hope, and the startling experience of being accepted without negotiation. Etter's author's note makes that intention explicit, describing the novel as an attempt to imagine queer lives that history often failed to record, and to give a transgender character a full story of love, survival, identity, and belonging. What stayed with me most was that sense of being recorded on your own terms. Tom doesn't get the future he imagines, but he gets to leave behind his name, his words, and proof that he was here.
Thanks for joining us on the Literary Titan podcast. If today's review sparked your interest, be sure to pick up a copy of the book and experience it for yourself. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a rating, or share it with a fellow book lover. Until next time, keep reading, not just to escape, but to grow.